In those days, the Crest was in service to the Shade, protectors of Heartvale. It has been long since the officers of the Crest have attended a high society fete. Our last was in Lasha before the Kriva breached the walls, and we were forced to fight them in the streets. I did not expect much out of the deFara party, though I admit to being surprised to find wine from my homeland. While the captain and lieutenant mingled with the city's elite, I watched Winestone and Erid slip away into the house. They were gone less than a quarter bell before they returned. Those two do indeed have potential. As Winestone made his way toward the captain, I started making my way over. As analyst, it is my responsibility to record the doings of the Crest. Before I could make it around the dance floor, the lieutenant found me and warned me that something was wrong. She nodded to our host, the Lord deFara, who had a vile look in his eyes and was pushing his way through the crowd. Following his line of sight, I saw Erid, standing by a hedge, looking ill. The lieutenant muttered something about 2 souls and made her way toward the noble. I started to follow, but she commanded me to fetch Irongull and prepare for trouble. Hurrying toward the hedge exit, I heard screams and shouting. When I looked back, Lord deFara had seemingly grown at least 2 feet and towered over our mage Erid. Sorcery swirled around them. Then came a terrifying, rending sound, and a shockwave knocked me off my feet. Welcome back for another episode of Errant Adventures. As always, I'm your game master and solo player, Steve Morrison. On this week's episode, battle breaks out in the gardens of the deFara estate as the magically enhanced nobleman unleashes hell on the Crest. Find out what happens on episode 18, Fire and Blood. Ben watches in horror as Bacchio deFara has undergone some sort of transformation. He has grown in size and seemingly is towering over Erid. And Ben watches in horror and revulsion as blood pours out of Bacchio deFara's hand and his cane as he extends it out, and it spews towards Erid. And Erid is able to somehow pull the hedge around him, creating a shell. But that shell only lasts for a moment before the strangely deformed deFara tears at it with his hands, and that hedge disintegrates into ash from his touch, and he raises his cane once more to strike down. And in that moment, he opens his mouth and a rending howl emits out of his throat, and Arid raises his hands as though to block this blow. But as this voice is echoing in this open courtyard, this shockwave emits out from Lord deFara and strikes those around. Now, people at this point have been fleeing towards the exits, and there is utter chaos in this area as Ben is picked off his feet by this shockwave and thrown to the ground. He manages to scrabble back to his feet pretty quickly and looks around. He can see that the captain is doing the same, as is the lieutenant, and he can also see that the Red Fox is also regaining her footing. Others are beginning to rise and scatter and continue to run as Ben looks around, and I think we should do our first move of the episode as Ben is going to study a situation. So this is going to be 2d6 plus his sly. Let's see if he picks up any information. 2d6 plus 2. 6 on the dice plus 2 is an 8. So on a 7 and 9, ask 2 questions. Where is my best escape route, way in, way past? How is one of my adversaries vulnerable to me right now? What am I missing? Who or where is my enemy really? Who's actually pulling the strings here? Who or what here could be a useful opportunity for me? So I've got 2 questions, and I think the first one is, what am I missing? And the thing that Ben was missing that he notices almost immediately is that the guards around the estate, it does not seem like they were knocked down by this pulse of power coming out of Bacchio deFara. And now they also have that sort of like greenish flame in their eyes that's like leaking out almost like smoke and billowing around their faces. And they are turning, and there are people between them and the Lord deFara, and Ben watches in horror as they begin to draw weapons and start wading through the fleeing nobility that are trying to escape this place. And Ben watches in horror as a couple of people trying to flee away get cut down as these guards are approaching with vicious intent. So that's one question. I also get a second question, and that is, how is one of my adversaries vulnerable to me right now? And I think that is going to be a question for the fate chart. So how is one of my adversaries vulnerable to me right now? I think the first question we have to ask here is this adversary who's vulnerable one of these guards who is close to Ben, or is it Lord deFara? So I'm going to start with Lord deFara. I'm going to ask that question, and then we will see where that takes us. So is deFara vulnerable to Ben in this situation? Now remember, Ben was trying to reach Arid in that moment, and as he was making his way over there, he almost reached Arid in time to like pull him away before deFara reached him. So he's probably the closest of the members of the Crest to where this magical battle is taking place. And Ben by no means has any talent, but maybe he has something on his person, or something has affected him in some way that he's going to be able to have an influence on this mage battle. So let's ask the fate chart. Is Lord deFara vulnerable to Ben in some way in this moment? I'm going to say it is unlikely, but our chaos rank is still 7 because we are still in the same scene where we were infiltrating the party and stealing the artifact. And so we are going to have a decent chance of getting a yes on this. 21 is a yes. So yes, it is Lord deFara who is vulnerable to Ben in this moment. Let's roll on action and subject and see why he might be vulnerable. So our action is 65, attach, and the subject, 81, attach victory. Okay, so I think I've got an idea for this. So Ben looks around, he sees these guards that seemingly are under whatever influence is affecting deFara as well, and they are closing in, cutting through the partygoers who are trying to flee. Ben looks over and sees Arid, trying to defend against this magic that the enhanced deFara is pouring down on him. And Arid is like holding his hands up and has created this bubble, this shield around him. And it seems like he's weakening. And I think Ben, looks around. He doesn't have any of his weapons on him. He doesn't really have anything of use, but I think he gets this like twinge in his hand, and he looks down at it, and underneath the glove that he's wearing, he sees these strange veins kind of like pulsing, and he sort of pulls back the glove a little bit. And it's the hand that he grabbed the eye of Vargosh with. And remember, he had this sort of like necrotic response to it, where his hand started to seize up and the veins sort of pulsed, and it was very, very dangerous. And I think as he's looking down at this, he feels this draw to the battle and to deFara, and he is wondering, I think, if he has some sort of connection to whatever it is that is possessing deFara because he touched the eye of Vargosh. And so I think he's going to try and make his way towards this fight and try to sneak up on deFara and try to use whatever might be in his hand as a way to either distract or to stop the nobleman from killing his friend. So, as part of that, Ben is going to use the Like a Shadow in the Darkness, which is when you are being chased, searched for, or otherwise trying to make yourself scarce or unseen, roll plus steady. And he is going to try and move into position and like crawl his way forward. And maybe he pulls a rock or something from the area. Is there something of use to him close to where he is that he could take as a weapon? Let's ask the fate chart. I think it's almost impossible that there's going to be something around that he can use as a weapon, but impossible doesn't mean no. So let's find out. Chaos factor of 7. 78 is a no in this case. So he is unarmed. He just has this like strange pulsing vein situation in his hand, and he is going to attempt to make his way towards this magical battle that's going on. So he's going to roll Like a Shadow in Darkness. This is plus steady, which is plus 2. So I've got my 2d6, and here we go. 7 on the dice plus 2 is a 9. So on 7 and 9, I get to choose one of the following. Those looking for you position themselves within striking distance. Those looking for you mistake someone else for you. Those looking for you are distracted by something else that's equally pressing. You stumble across something interesting or important as you hide or escape. So I think that he is able to sort of keep himself underneath the awareness of whatever deFara has become. And so I think those looking for you are distracted by something else that's equally important is going to be our result here. And that is represented by Ben being able to approach. And I think there are a couple others who are also approaching. I mean, we know that Lephalia and the Red Fox were both on their way to try and intercept deFara before he reached Arid. And so I think they're approaching. And as they're closing in around him, there's this flash of lightning and this crack of thunder, and both of them are driven back as this magic emits from deFara as he's focused his ire on Arid, and Ben is missed in this. Ben is a gnat, is not even worthy of deFara's notice in this situation. And so Ben is able to make his way up and behind the nobleman and is going to prepare himself to strike. And what I think this is going to represent is Ben is going to use his hand to try and assist Arid here. So I'm going to go ahead and have Ben make the move help another PC. And this is going to be, I think it's going to be plus steady in this case for him, because he is essentially like holding on to his resolve as he closes in on this being who is emitting a very strong magical field around him. And there's like these flashes of lightning going off. And I want to also make it clear here that as these bolts of lightning are flashing off, Lephalia and the Red Fox are deflecting them and like sending them towards the sky, and like their progress is being slowed by them, but they're also making headway towards this battle, but they're still far enough away that they can't really affect it in this moment. And so Ben is going to try and reach out with his steady, with his resolve, and touch Lord deFara with this hand that has touched the eye of Vargosh. And I'm going to roll 2d6, and I'm going to add +2 for this. 8 on the dice, +2 is a 10. And that is a complete success. So on a hit, they take +1 for helping. So Arid is going to get +1 for his move that I'm going to make here in a moment. And because I also got a 10+, I get to pick an additional effect. So they can take an additional +1 for helping, or you do not expose yourself to danger, cost, or retribution through your action. Ooh, this is super interesting. I think I'm going to give Arid another +1, but I'm going to leave it open that Ben is then exposing himself to danger as he reaches out and touches deFara in the back with this hand. And I think the nobleman sort of rears back and howls as this hand connects. And in that moment, Arid sees an opening, and he is going to attempt to unleash a blow of magic to send Lord deFara hurtling backwards. And so for this, we are going to use Arcane Malice, which is you can inflict harm with your magic power, roll +Arcane instead of +Fierce to engage in combat, and threaten with force if you attack with magic. So this is going to be some sort of magical blast, and let's go ahead and roll on the magic table here. I'm going to go ahead and pick out what table I'm rolling on in Maze Rats, because we know it's going to be some sort of like physical element, and I think some sort of ethereal form. So the physical element is going to be 3 and 6. Lava. Ooh, okay, so it's like molten lava comes up from the earth, and Arid has been drawing on this as he's holding this shield above him. And the form is going to be 1 and 4, a blast. Perfect. So Arid is focusing, he's drawing magma up from below him. He's churning with the force of his magic the earth around him into hot molten lava, and he brings it up and he blasts it at Lord deFara. And Arid is going to engage in combat with his arcane, which is 2, and he gets to add +2 from Ben's assistance. So this is +4 on this roll. Come on, Arid. 8 on the dice, +4 is a 12. So on a hit, I can choose to attack with vigor, parry their blows, battle aggressively, or fight defensively. I can also additionally on a 10+ pick another option. So let's resolve the first one first, which is attack with vigor, parry their blows, battle aggressively, or fight defensively. So I think he is going to fight defensively because he is holding this shield above him. He is like throwing out this lava, trying to knock deFara back. He's not necessarily trying to destroy him or kill him in this instant, but he is attempting to push him back and gain a little bit of breathing room. So inflict -1 harm, but take an additional -2 harm for himself. So Arid is going to take no harm from this exchange with deFara. And going back over to our Arcane Malice, I have to pick 2 from the following list to describe exactly how your magic works. So the base attack is 1 harm, and then I can either have my attack be powerful and add +1 harm. It can be inconspicuous. It can have incredible range. It can harm from within and pierce armor, or it could shake the nerves and inflict a harm. So I'm going to just say it's powerful. Like this lava flow comes up. It's a powerful attack, so that's +1 harm, which is going to be a base of 2 harm. And then I also get to pick 1 more from the following list, which is your attack is violent, add messy. Your attack is short-ranged, add close. Your attack is conspicuous, add loud. Your attack takes a lot out of you, you take harm. I am going to go ahead and say that it's definitely conspicuous. I mean, hot lava exploding out of the ground and coursing at this nobleman is pretty conspicuous. So people are noticing that there is this mage battle going on. They already were noticing it, but I think maybe people are going to talk about the fact that Arid is maybe a more powerful mage than they initially thought he was. So it may actually have some repercussions in the aftermath of this battle, provided that Arid or anybody else survives, because he is showing sort of the raw nature of his power. Going back to engage in combat, I also, again, because I got a 10+, I get to pick one of the following. I stymie my opponent. Impressive or dominant, gain the attention or respect of those present. You achieve a goal. You may change the situation, grab something from your opponent, push them somewhere, block their entrance or exit, etc. So I'm definitely going to take that one because the stated goal of this attack was to push deFara back and give Arid a little bit of breathing room. So not only does he deal 1 harm to deFara and takes no harm himself, but he is able to push the nobleman back and away. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different in this, which is I'm going to use clocks to track this combat. And I have created an 8-part clock for deFara, and I've created a 6-part clock for the guards. So as harm is dealt to the guards and to deFara, I'm going to mark off the various slices of the clock, if you will. So 1 harm to deFara means I'm going to mark 1 box off on his 8-segment clock. So he gets knocked back. I think Ben dives out of the way as deFara goes sailing past, and Arid sort of like stands and he's huffing a little bit. Ben runs over to him and says, "Arid, are you all right?" And the mage looks at him and says, I am all right, yes. I do not think that this battle is over, however. As he looks at deFara, who stands, and there's like this blistering of his skin where the lava has like melted through his suit, and the skin just kind of like knits back together, and this vicious smile appears on deFara's face, and he snarls a little bit and says,
You think that is enough to defeat me? Foolish little worms, I will crush you into the earth.
And he is going to begin making his way back around. At that moment, Iron Gull and members of the Crest rush into the courtyard, and they are armed, and some of them are carrying additional weapons, which they quickly hand off to Captain Netheridge and Saga, who are standing against some of these guards who are approaching. They had grabbed like chairs and were using them to defend against these guards' attack. And now with a few other members of the Crest in play and with these weapons in hand, they begin to do battle with these guards. I think Arid turns to Ben and says, My friend, I don't think there is anything else you can do in this part of the battle. Maybe you should get free. And he sort of pushes Ben to the side as Lord deFara is making his way forward. So Ben joins the other members of the Crest and gets a sword from one of them, and he is going to stand in the battle line with them as they are facing off against deFara's guards. And we're going to engage in combat. This is plus fierce, and I believe this is the first time I'm rolling fierce in this scene, so that is a point of advancement for Ben. And I am going to go ahead and roll 2d6 plus 2. 7 on the dice plus 2 is a 9. So on a 7 to 9, he can attack with vigor, parry their blows, battle aggressively, or fight defensively. And I think that he is going to parry their blows. And what that means is he's going to take -1 harm. Now, Ben didn't come to this party wearing armor, so he is unarmored at the moment. And the standard weapon is 2 harm, so he's going to reduce that to 1 harm, but he's still going to take a harm as he engages one of these guards with his blade, and they are fighting back and forth. Ben is parrying these blows, but still manages to get a few cuts in the battle. But he triumphs over this guard as he deals out 2 harm, and I think that is also going to represent some of the other Crest making headway against the other guards, as I fill 2 out of the 6 slices on the guard clock. Now, Arid is facing off against Lord deFara. However, he's not alone at this point. He is standing there with perhaps 2 of the most powerful sorceresses in the city. So I am going to ask the fate chart, are Lephalia and the Red Fox going to be able to assist Arid in this fight against Lord deFara? I think it's very likely that they're going to be able to assist. And the only reason I think it's very likely instead of a sure thing is because there are like guards and other people running around. And so it's possible that they might get distracted by something more pressing, like a guard running at them with a sword trying to kill them. So I'm going to say it's very likely. Chaos rank of 7. Let's find out if they are able to assist. 73, which is a yes. Yes, they are able to assist him in this. And I am going to go ahead and say that that gives Arid an automatic +2. So he's basically getting +1 from each of them as they assist him. And he is once again going to attempt to engage in combat while rolling plus arcane. So this is +4 on this engage in combat. 5 on the dice +4 is a 9. So he only gets to choose one in this case. Attack with vigor, parry their blows, battle aggressively, or fight defensively. And I think Arid is going to attack with vigor. So he is reacting to this onslaught of magical power. And I think having the presence of these other powerful mages around him gives him the confidence to really, really go for this battle. So he is starting with a base of 1 harm, +1 because he's attacking with vigor. And then once again, I get to pick 2 from the list. But I am going to go back to my Maze Rats chart here, and let's go ahead and check our elements and our forms. And this time I am actually going to roll on the generating spell table because I like the idea of seeing what different ways magic might play out in this battle. So I'm going to roll 2d6. I got a 6 and a 2, so that is a physical element plus an ethereal form, which is basically what I did last time, but that's all right. So our physical element is a 2 and a 5. Flesh, and the ethereal form is 4 and 4. Flesh nexus. So a nexus is a connection or series of connections linking 2 or more things, and flesh. So I think in this case, Arid is reaching out with his magic, and he is actually trying to dissolve the ligaments in deFara's body so that he just loses all ability to like walk and move, and is trying to immobilize the nobleman. And that is the like form that takes. And now I get to add 2 checks for that. And I think that this is going to be, again, another +1 harm. This is just a powerful attack, and it's going to be violent. So I think that there is going to be like gore and viscera that goes around as he literally like reaches out his hand and like grasps his hand into a fist, and there's just this like popping and snapping as these tendons in deFara's body loosen, and they can visibly see the joints sort of like pop a little bit, and the muscles give way, and the nobleman almost immediately like begins to drop to the ground as he is going to take 3 harm from this attack. So that is going to fill in another 3 boxes in this clock, which we're halfway there on the deFara clock. However, Arid is going to take 2 harm from the aura that is around deFara as he's approaching. As deFara is throwing these blasts of lightning and energy at him, Arid is able to avoid some of them, and maybe he even absorbs one and turns that energy into the power to do this magical effect. But he still is going to take harm from this, and that is going to take him up to 3 harm. And I think Arid is going to attempt to endure this harm. So if you took a hit for 2 harm and have armor, it doesn't have any armor. So he is going to roll +2 on 2d6. And once again, lower is definitely better for us. Hey, so we got 3 on the dice, +2 is a 5. So on a miss, the MC can choose something from the 7 to 9 list above. If I do, it's in place of some of the harm you're suffering, so take -1 harm. So lose your footing, lose your grip on whatever you're holding, lose track of someone or something you're attending to. You miss noticing something important. Ooh, okay. So there are two basic options, I think, that are interesting for this, which is you lose track of someone or something you're attending to, or you miss noticing something important. So I'm just going to do a simple D6 roll. 1 to 3 will be lose track of someone. 4 to 6 will be miss noticing something. A 3. So lose track of someone or something you're attending to. And that's deFara. So I think what happens is he lashes out with this blow, and he is going to unleash this pain on the nobleman, and whatever this creature is that is within deFara howls again, and it shakes the earth, and he collapses to the ground. And again, even though he's injured, those injuries are knitting themselves back together, and as they do so, deFara starts to pick himself back up, and then looks down and just rends open the earth and then sinks below the earth. And then the earth just kind of piles over and closes over him. And for the moment, he is gone. He's out of sight. And Arid is looking around, searching for this foe who he doesn't know if he's trying to escape or if he's trying to get the drop on them. And I think at the same time, Lephalia and the Red Fox have sort of fanned out, and both of them are eyes closed, sort of hands waving over the ground as if they're searching for that presence. So let's go back over to Ben as he is once again going to engage in combat, and this is 2d6 plus 2 on this. And I think once again, maybe I should ask this question of the fate chart. Is he going to get some assistance from his fellow Crest? I think it is 50-50 on this, because I think there are actually more guards present than there are Crest, and so they may have to sort of be fighting one-on-one or even one-on-two against some of these guards. So I think it's 50-50 on this. 80. 80 is a no. So he is not able to get any assistance from any of the Crest around him. So I am going to go ahead and roll plus Fierce, which is plus 2. 7 on the dice plus 2 is another 9. All right, so on a 9, once again, I can choose to inflict 1 harm, take 1 harm less by parrying their blows, battle aggressively and inflict 2 harm, but take an additional plus 1 harm, or fight defensively and inflict 1 less harm, but take an additional 2 harm yourself. I am going to, in this case, I think I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to attack with Vigor. And that is going to deal 2 harm to Ben, but he is going to deal out 3 harm, which is going to almost completely fill the clock. There's 1 segment left. He's going to take 2 harm, and I am going to have him also roll the taking harm move. And once again, lower is better in this. It's plus 2. Oh, bad luck for Ben as usual. So that's 9 on the dice, plus 2 is 11. So on a 10 plus, the MC can choose 1. You're out of the action for the time being, unconscious, downed, writhing in pain, or panicked. It's worse than it seemed, take an additional 1 harm, which would take him to 5 harm, or choose 2 from the 7 to 9 list below. So the 7 to 9 is you lose your footing, you lose your grip on whatever you're holding, you lose track of someone or something you're attending to, you miss noticing something important. Okay, so I'm going to choose 2 from that list, and one of them is going to be you lose your footing. So he is fighting these 2, and I think this is why he takes a little bit extra harm. He's fighting 2 of these guards, and he is parrying their blows. He's going back and forth with them, and one of them gets in a cut across his abdomen, and it's not a deep cut, but it's enough that he's sort of holding his arm over his stomach, and he manages to down these 2 guards. But as he does so, he kind of crumbles to the ground a little bit and falls to a knee. and is breathing heavily. And I think he misses noticing something important. And we're going to ask the fate chart if that something important is Lord deFara emerging out of the dirt close to him. And I think it is 50-50. So, chaos rank of 7, 50-50. Does Lord deFara emerge out of the ground close to Ben? 31 is, of course, a yes. So Ben is sort of like crouched down, breathing heavily, taking just the barest moment's break in this fighting. And he misses that deFara is rising up out of the earth behind him. And I think deFara, because this was a pretty catastrophic miss on Ben's part for that taking harm move, deFara knows that whatever happened before, whatever that touch of that hand, came from Ben. And I think Ben is, unfortunately, the focus of deFara's ire in this moment. And I think before we resolve that, I think Arid and the others are going to have a chance to be able to try and do something to help Ben. But I don't think that it's going to be arcane malice in this case for Arid. I think he's going to attempt to harness the unspeakable power to shield Ben from whatever attack is coming that Ben is unaware of. So he is going to tap into the unspeakable power by rolling plus arcane. I don't think he's getting any assistance from the two sorceresses for this because they're focused on taking out deFara. So Arid is rolling +2 on this. Here we go. 5 on the dice +2 is a 7. So on a 7 to 9, the MC will also hold 1 and may spend it on one of the following. The power knows what you're doing and why you're doing it. The power asks for something minor in return. The power requests some small show of loyalty. So I think by the power knows what you're doing, I think what that translates to is that the ripples of Arid's defensive magic reach deFara and is going to draw his attention back to the mage. So deFara is like risen out of the earth. He throws this bolt of lightning down at Ben's back, and Ben sees the flash. I think he's like shocked in a moment. He's shocked. And he hears the peal of thunder immediately, and instinctively he dodges out of the way. He rolls out of the way and realizes that electricity sort of diffused around him harmlessly, and he can see Arid standing maybe at this point, 20 paces away, sort of hand outstretched, sweat dripping down his face, and he is breathing heavily as he calls out, "Your quarrel is with me, friend. Why don't you bring your magic this way?" And he is going to try to taunt deFara into turning back and facing him. At this point, Ben is going to scrabble away. I think there's only a few guards left. He is going to attempt... I'm going to ask the fate chart a question here, which is there's only one tick left on the guard's clock. And I think there are enough Crest left that they could probably mop up. But I'm going to ask the fate chart. Can the Crest, other than Ben and Arid, take care of the rest of these possessed guards? And I think it is 50-50, because maybe the Crest have actually taken some casualties as well in this battle. So I think it's 50-50, still a pretty good chance of getting a yes. 55 is a yes. So I am going to go ahead and mark off the last tick on the guard clock, as I think that the rest of the Crest are able to engage the rest of the guards, and they are able to finish them off without any difficulty. Now, Arid has expressed this challenge, and he is going to attempt to unleash another attack. He's going to engage in combat once again with Lord deFara to try and defeat him. And once again, I'm going to give him +2 on this from the other sorceresses as they are assisting by barraging Lord deFara with this magic. So this is 2d6 +4. 6 on the dice +4 is a 10. So that is once again a complete success. So I think he will continue to deal out the harm and is going to attack with vigor. This is going to inflict +1 harm, and this is going to take his base harm to 2. I will give him another +1 harm because it is a powerful attack on his magic. So that is 3 harm once again, and I think it is, in this case, short range. So I think that Arid has had to close in on Lord deFara and has unleashed this magic. And let's find out what that magic looks like. So once again, we're going to generate our spell here. 4 and a 1. Ethereal effect and an ethereal form. So the ethereal effect is a 3 and a 1. Dispelling, and the ethereal form is a 3 and a 6. Form. Dispelling form. Okay, so I think what that means is that Arid is now approaching. He is injured, but not nearly as badly injured as Ben is. And he is focusing on deFara. And I think Lephalia and the Red Fox see what he's doing, and they pour their magical energy into helping him with this. And essentially, what Arid is doing is peeling away that aura of hate and negative energy that is pulsating around Lord deFara. And he is going to basically peel that away so it is no longer a danger to himself or to Ben, who's still close by. And I think he is also going to, because he got a 10+, he is going to be impressive and dominant, which is going to gain the attention or respect of those present. That is going to apply to Lephalia and the Red Fox, but it is also going to apply to Lord deFara. And I think what this means is that he is now focused on Arid once again with the full fury and magnitude of his ire. And because of that, he forgets, he misses that Ben is still there. Ben, who is injured, who was almost killed in this lightning strike. He is going to look down at his hand, which is holding the sword, and he can see those veins coming out from under his glove. And he's going to look up at deFara as deFara and Arid are facing off in this magical battle as electricity is sparking off as the winds have picked up around them, and Lephalia and the Red Fox are standing behind Arid, and they are all facing off against this towering figure. Ben is going to slowly, quietly sneak his way up behind, and he is going to attempt to finish off Lord deFara. And to do that, I'm going to use another Black Hood move, which is once per session. When you attempt to silently abduct or kill an NPC who is reasonably within your ability to reach, roll plus steady. I think because Arid was able to pull attention to him, it is going to open up and give Ben the opportunity to strike at deFara's back. Here we go. 2d6 plus 2. 10 on the dice plus 2 is a 12. So on a 10+, choose 2. It is clean and quiet. No one sees or hears a thing. It goes exactly as planned. Your target is killed, abducted exactly as you want. You don't leave anything behind, or you leave behind a calling card. So I think it's going to be the first two. It is clean and quiet. No one sees or hears a thing. And I think what that means is not necessarily that nobody observes that this happens, but it is clean and quiet from the standpoint of Ben is able to achieve this without taking any sort of harm from whatever remnants of that aura are left. And it goes exactly as planned. Your target is killed exactly as you want. So Ben sneaks up behind deFara, and he is going to pull his sword blade back as deFara has reached up his arms to the heavens, and deFara says,
You fools! You do not understand my power. You cannot defeat me despite your paltry attempts and...
As all of a sudden, this blade pierces through his back, and those veins of energy sort of course up the sword, and deFara almost immediately shrinks down to his normal height, and that fire that was burning in his eyes dissipates, and he collapses to his knees. And in that moment, Arid and Lephalia and the Red Fox can see what Ben cannot see, which is Lord deFara returned to his senses, and he's looking around wildly as he clutches at this blade that's protruding from his chest, and he's like, what? And Ben just sort of like puts a boot on his back and draws the blade out, and as the blade comes out, a gout of blood spurts from the nobleman's chest, and Lord Bacchio deFara falls to the ground, dead. Ben, standing over him, is heaving and is holding his stomach. He is looking at Arid. He looks around and sees the captain and other members of the Crest. There are other nobles lying dead in this courtyard who fell during the attack from the guards. And at least for the moment, it is quiet. And the Crest have won the day. Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures, and thanks so much to Syrinscape for the lovely ambient sounds and music throughout the episode. If you enjoyed the show, please tell anyone and everyone in your life about it. And if you haven't already, please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really does help others find me. If you want to interact with me, my handle on Instagram and Twitter is @ErrantSoloPod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.